Welcome to Rhythms That Restore. I'm your friend Cherisse that's ready to journey beside you. Let's learn rhythms that can restore our minds, hearts, bodies, and spirits, and allow us to walk confidently in who God has called us to be. Are you ready? Pull up a chair. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 10 and the month of May. We are here for it, friends, aren't we? We are here. That's why we all press play, so we could have a little bit of encouragement in our hearts. And I am so thrilled that you guys are here, that you've pressed play. Thank y'all so much too. So many of you have joined our community. We've got two different little community pages. One, for those of y'all that love Facebook, we have a private Rhythms That Restore community group that we are connecting together. We are sharing how we've been using these tools to grow every single day and how we're practicing these rhythms. So I hope that you guys will join that page and be a part of that discussion. And we also have a brand new page that we launched on Instagram. It's our Rhythms That Restore podcast page. So make sure, if you have not ventured over there, that you are following and being able to take advantage of so much goodness that is there, and share us with your friends. And speaking of sharing us with your friends, if you haven't already, after y'all listen, will you go to, on your Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review and write and leave a review of what you've been learning and what some of the tools are that you're putting into practice, into play, because as you do that, more and more women will be able to find our podcast. That's kind of how they find us, is your beautiful words. So, and it means the world to me too. I love that. So I can't wait. And it's just been a joy to hear from y'all. Many of you have sent me DMs on Instagram or on Facebook, or sent me emails. Keep them coming. I love it so much. I have reconnected with so many friends that I haven't seen in years and years in person, and so many new friends that I'm meeting. So please take a moment, if you want to, and send me an email or some sort of message and let me know, how have these past episodes been encouraging you? If there's anything that you'd love to continue seeing in the next episodes, we have got some really cool stuff planned for the remainder of May and June and July that I can't wait to share. So let's dive into what we're talking about today as we are journeying through the month of May. For myself, what I've been experiencing, and again, y'all share with me, I have been noticing and really wanting to find something that will encourage each of our hearts as we are in a season of life that's a little bit busier than normal, right? We've just come through winter, which has been a little bit dreary, and things can look dull and gray. And now we're seeing the beautiful growth of the trees and the flowers and the evidence of everything that happened through the winter. And I do want y'all to know that's kind of like our journey. These past 10 episodes, we have all been listening, learning, leaning in a little bit more. And I want you to know that there's growth happening. Even if you don't see it yet, it's coming. Those roots are taking hold underneath the soil, just like what we're seeing in spring. And you're going to continue watering it. You're going to continue working that soil, and you're going to see the growth, just as we're all seeing it now in spring and summer. So be encouraged. That's the great thing that Brittany had said in her episode. Growth takes time. And we do live in a society that wants overnight results. We want to microwave it in 3 minutes and be done. And that's just not real. Growth takes time, and healing takes time. And so we've got to allow ourselves the space to provide for healing and the nourishment for our growth. And that's why we're all here. So as we always do, let's take a quick breath. Well, not a quick breath. Let's take a deep breath and just pause, because this is your opportunity to just show up as you are and be. So take a deep breath with me. And let's give ourselves the grace that we can show up right now as we are. So today I wanted to share with you, so I don't even know, a couple weeks ago, one of the daily Lectio Divinas led me to Luke 24:36. And I didn't know anything about it. I just hit play, let the words wash over me a few times. And then I was like, okay, let me open this up in my actual Bible and let's see what it has to say, which is kind of why I love that app or that daily rhythm, because I don't always know what to read. And so it was perfect. So it was right after Easter, and it led me to this, which was talking about the Emmaus Road. And it was talking about how Jesus meets us exactly where we are. So that might be where you are today, right? I love that we can show up, and that it said Jesus came and walked with them on the road. So let me read it to us. Luke 24:36. As they were saying these things, he himself stood in their midst. He said to them, "Peace to you." But they were startled and terrified and thought they were seeing a ghost. "Why are you so troubled?" he asked them. "And why do doubts arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see, because a ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you can see." Having said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. But while they were still amazed and in disbelief because of their joy, he asked them, "Do you have anything to eat?" So they gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took and ate it in their presence. So what does all that mean? What did you guys hear? A few of the things I underlined was I heard he stood in their midst, meeting them where they were, right in the middle of their conversation. He said, "Peace to you." And he asked them, "Why are you so troubled? Why are you so troubled? Why do doubts arise in your heart?" Do you ever feel like that could speak to you and to me? Jesus is offering his peace, and he says, "Why are you so troubled? Why are you holding on to so much angst? Why do you allow so much doubt to be in your hearts?" And even in asking that, he said, "I'm offering you my peace, and I'm showing you this proof. Like, here are my hands, here are my feet." And even so he's holding that up and showing them. And even in their disbelief, he says, "Okay, all right, well, reach out and grab my arm. Feel like this is real. There are bones." And they still didn't believe. Oh, isn't that encouraging? The disciples were just as hard-headed as we are. And so in a third attempt to get their attention, a third attempt to calm their spirits, he said, "Well, okay, third way. Let me think, what can I do?" Looked around the room and he said, "Well, do you have anything to eat? Because maybe if I sit and I share a meal with you, you will then believe that I am here." And so I think that teaches us, right? Everything points us back to Jesus. It teaches us God's character, that he recognizes their fear. He sees their troubled hearts and he goes to them. So he meets them right where they are. They didn't have to leave that room. Jesus met them in their fear, in their doubt, in their unbelief. And even in their hard-headedness, he said, "Okay, I'll be patient. I'm going to offer you a third way to calm your nerves, to calm your disbelief and your doubts." And he pulls up a chair and he eats with them and he shares. That's pretty cool. It teaches us that he comes to us in our trouble. It teaches us that he's patient and he's kind and he sits with us in the pain. He sits with us in the discouragement and the doubts. And he offers his peace. Pretty cool, huh? It also teaches me that God shows up. I mean, y'all, the mundaneness of just sitting at the table. There was nothing flashy. There was nothing flashy about just this wooden table, but he met them there. And how many times can and does God meet us around the table? When we're breaking bread with our family, when we're sharing a meal with friends, he meets us there, right? through the stories that are shared around the table every single time when you are in community with friends. God shows up. It's so cool. Because really, how can you not, when you're hearing someone's story, maybe the valleys that they've walked through, maybe the mountaintop experiences, that's not on their own accord. 100%. It's because of what God has done in and through their life. And so a couple of the questions I was asking myself after I read this was, do you ever feel unseen? You can be surrounded by people that you work with. You can be surrounded by people in your household, but sometimes you feel a little unseen. But I want you to be encouraged, just as Jesus met those unnamed disciples on the Emmaus road, which was also an unnamed road, not important road. Jesus meets us right there in the unimportant places. It could be your laundry room. It could be on a train headed to work. It could be stuck in traffic. Jesus meets us in that unimportant time right there. Right there, he shows up and he says, "Why do you doubt? Why do you fear? I'm right here. I'm offering you my peace." Do you ever feel like, well, but Cherisse, who am I? Right? I'm not a celebrity. I don't have 4 million followers. Nope. Jesus doesn't ask that. He doesn't ask that. He showed right up to these two unnamed men on the Emmaus road. He's just asking for their obedience. He's asking for their eyes to see and their willingness to walk with him. I was so encouraged when I read this and I guess I hadn't realized that Jesus showed up first to a group of women. He could have shown up to anyone big, right? He could have shown up to Herod or Pilate or the Pharisees that had given him so much grief, right? He could have shown up and been like, "What's up?" He didn't. He showed up to a group of women that were gathered around his tomb, and he gave them his message to share with the world. How cool is that? He met them where they were, and he gave them his message to go and share. I mean, he just chose to remain humble. That God often uses something big in small moments. Haven't we learned too in these past few episodes? God's economy is not our economy. It might not make sense in our human brain, but we must believe and we must know. And that's why faith is so important, that God will use the areas of small obedience to do big things. Time and time and time again, we see that his truths are real. In my Bible translation, she says in a little message here, think about every mundane moment in your life, every season where it feels like God isn't doing a thing. Every time you've thought, I'm a nobody, God can't use me. And then read these passages in Luke again. Jesus announced his resurrection from the dead to an unknown disciple walking down an unnamed road to an unimportant town. Right? Do you ever feel like, well, Cherisse, I kind of feel like the unnamed disciple. I feel like I live in walking down an unnamed road in an unimportant town. Perfect. If that's how you feel, perfect. You are in line. God wants to use every single one of us where we are. He meets us where we are. He offers his peace. He shows his hands, his feet, his skin. And he says, look to me, lean into me. I want to use you. I want to use your story. I want to use your gifting and talents because only you have that. Because he created you so beautifully and so perfectly and gave you the friends and the family and the place that you work at that only you can have and only that you can impact. No one else can. Big stuff in the little stuff. The message he entrusted to nobodies somehow made it to our ears and hearts 2,000 years later. Wow. I found this passage in this book I've been reading by John Ortberg called Soul Care. And remember how Brittany was saying that she had begun her journey and was reading from Ruth Haley Barton and Dallas Willard and Brother Lawrence. And I had never heard of him, honestly, until I started reading this book. And there was a passage in here that shared his story story of Jesus meeting him exactly where he is. And it encouraged me. And so I wanted to read this to y'all. It says, "Now it's our turn. Over the recent centuries, every once in a while, a follower of Jesus gets a vision for this kind of intimate life with God. Centuries ago, a man named Nicholas Herman, who was an uneducated household servant from a poor family, got converted to the Christian faith by looking at a tree. It was winter and the tree was barren, but it occurred to Nicholas that the tree would grow leaves again in the spring. This produced in him a deep sense of God's care and power. It struck him that if God does that for trees, he would surely do it for a person. So this young man entered into a monastic community, spent his life in the kitchen as a cook and a dishwasher, all the while privately devoting his life to being with God. Today, we know him as Brother Lawrence. When he died, friends gathered some of his letters together and turned them into a book. The book is called The Practice of the Presence of God. It was written in the 17th century and is now thought to be the most widely read book in the history of the human race other than the Bible. This from an uneducated dishwasher. When the soul is with God, it doesn't matter if you are a dishwasher or a president. The soul thrives not through our accomplishments, but through simply being with God. Our soul thrives not in our accomplishments, by simply being with God. Let that sink in, right? I love it. So friends, I hope what you're taking away from today is that God's going to use you, and he can use us in the everyday, mundane tasks that don't look flashy, that aren't maybe even Insta-worthy. Jesus is using your obedience. He's using that you're leaning in, you're looking towards him. You're asking him, what do you have for me every day, Lord? What are you teaching me? How can I dig deeper to you? He's using your obedience. Continue taking that next step forward. Continue asking those questions. And in closing, I wanted to share this with y'all. May we learn to see God's hand in the mundane as we walk our own Emmaus road, as we walk our own unnamed road. May we keep seeing his hand in the everyday. Keep looking, keep asking, what do you have for me, Lord? What do you have for me today? What is your word pointing me back to? And how can I continue to walk step by step with you? Love you guys. Thanks for journeying with me today. Thank you for joining me on this journey of restoration and renewal. Remember, you can stay connected with me between episodes by following me on Instagram. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss an episode. And if you found value in our conversation today, I'd truly appreciate it if you leave a review on your favorite podcast platform or share the show with a friend who might benefit from these rhythms. Until next time, may you find peace in knowing that you can show up every day simply as you are. And that is enough. Take care.